Here for a quick update on the Big Brother 24 feeds, and it will be quick because waking up to see that Brittany won the power of veto was not the best thing to wake up to, because with only 2 weeks left in the game, one should be celebrating that this long season is almost over, but knowing that Brittany could be there for 2 more weeks is depressing. Because the longer and longer she's been in this game, the less and less watchable she has become on feeds. Her crying, her victimhood, her anxiety-driven fucking spirals. It's awful. It's to the point where if she is on cam for 2 or 3 minutes, I literally can't watch it. Just being 100% honest, I can't watch Brittany on the feeds any longer. But she did win the veto, and that means she is surviving this week no matter what. And she also apparently, according to Alyssa and Turner, when she won the veto, she said, "This is for Michael." The same Michael that just threw her completely under the bus just a couple of days ago. No, she didn't say this is for her husband Steven. She said this is for Michael, the guy she almost threw her entire game away for. I'm starting to wonder if Steven actually exists. Is Steven real? Somebody tell me in the comments, because I don't know who would marry this thing. But she also just stays probably losing jury votes when she had a conversation with Taylor today. Mad at Taylor for coming to her with info, or waiting to come to Brittany with info until after she won the veto. Now, it would be a good argument from Brittany, if she wasn't Brittany, if this wasn't the same Brittany whose timing, she could be mad at Taylor's timing of when she comes to Brittany with information, when Brittany is the same one who, along with Michael, the timing to tell the house about Kyle's racism gameplay. So Brittany being quite the gigantic hypocrite in that way. Also with the veto, and something probably that needs to be discussed, is that Monty was not able to play the veto. Now, I don't know if this is because there was some twist to the veto, because they did play this overnight. It was like early in the morning, and Monty was sleeping, and maybe he didn't make it down fast enough. Maybe there was a timing thing that you had to be downstairs fast enough to be able to play in the veto. But there's a lot of speculation going on that production is very anti-Monty, and I kind of feel the same way. I felt that way for a while. Because, well, first of all, the comic book, I talked about this a few days ago. His comic book made no sense. It was like they were trying to paint a target on Monty's back from that comic book, and now they don't let him play in a veto because it's either a rule with this specific veto, or maybe it's a rule in the rule book. But if it's a rule in the rule book, this show never really follows the rule book, so it's questionable that they magically follow it when it's about Monty. I speculated from the beginning that production was upset with Monty for not wanting to have any sort of showmance with Taylor, because we've all learned that the only thing production cares about is showmances and how they're going to edit their boring showmances into the episodes. But so I do think production is quite anti-Monty and don't really want Monty to win in this final 5. And you could be damn sure that production would have aneurysms if a black man won the show 2 seasons in a row. But Monty's week overall is he's having a strategic week. Yesterday, Monty was telling Turner and Taylor 2 different things, kind of. That telling Turner that if Taylor's on the block, maybe he can vote against Taylor. Telling Taylor that if Turner's on the block, she can vote against Turner. And now with Brittany on the coming off of the block, Monty has to make the decision to put up either Turner or Taylor, and he is leaning towards putting up Taylor, despite Taylor being on the block so many times this season. This should show Taylor that Turner is Monty's number 1. Now, do I 100% believe Monty wants to go to the end with Turner? I mean, I guess so. That's what this would seem like, right? If he doesn't want to put Turner on the block, this week. Maybe he really does want to go to the end with Turner. Or maybe he just doesn't want to put Turner on the block because that would make Monty the clear biggest target left in the house if Turner were to go this week. So I could 100% understand why Monty doesn't want to put Turner up on the block, because the girls will vote Turner out of this game. So to have a semi-shield like Turner, I don't know if Turner's that big of a shield for Monty, honestly, but he is a semi-shield. And so now Monty's getting a lot of backlash from fans, of course, because he's going to put Taylor on the block. And it could be bad for Taylor, because this means Taylor has to depend on Brittany to not vote against her when she's on the block against Alyssa. And you would think, because Brittany and Taylor have been aligned since the beginning of this game, that Taylor should be fine this week. Monty's plan, if it's a tie between Alyssa and Taylor, is for Monty to be the tiebreaker and vote out Alyssa. But they would still need Brittany to vote out Alyssa and not vote out Taylor. But Brittany, for weeks and weeks now, has been throwing Taylor's game under the bus. And for weeks and weeks now, she's been trying to get on Alyssa's good side, even though it hasn't worked one bit. So I don't think you can 100% trust that Brittany is going to vote to keep her ally in the game because of her terrible gameplay this season. It would not surprise me one bit if Brittany were to vote against Taylor. From the very beginning, Brittany's been playing to lose this game. She was okay with second place to Michael. Seems like she's just okay with second place in general now. So yeah, I would just not be surprised by that. But so far, it seems like she's going to keep Taylor. And Monty has told Turner that he doesn't have to vote against Alyssa, because that could be good for Turner's jury management. Turner could vote against Taylor. So, I mean, would Turner put in the work to try and keep Alyssa in this game as an ally? Will Turner put in the work to go to Brittany and try to convince Brittany to vote against Taylor? We've yet to see any sort of aggression or aggressive gameplay from Turner in this game. I've talked about how he's been a pushover this entire time, so I have a very hard time seeing Turner going out of his way to try and convince Brittany to vote out Taylor. But maybe he will. Maybe he'll surprise me and we'll actually see some semblance of gameplay from Turner here. Ray in the comments was talking about Turner's possible bad jury management, that there is a lot of people annoyed with Turner in the jury. He was making some good points, because it is true, we all know that Jasmine hates Turner, and Indy's not the fondest of Turner either. So there are some votes against Turner in the jury if he were to make this end game. So Monty may not be that bad off if he does go to the end with Turner, because there are some votes against Turner with this jury. So I still think Monty is doing overall good as his HOH for his game. He is going to keep 2 out of 3 people in the game, or at least this is his plan if Brittany goes along with it, is to keep his final 4 would be Turner, Brittany, and Taylor. And I guess Monty hopes that having both Taylor and Turner in the game means that Monty has a very good shot at making the final 2 if those 2 go far with him. But Taylor is not so happy about having to go up on the block again, so I don't know if Taylor is going to be all that happy with Monty going forward, and she probably shouldn't be, because Monty just tried to make a final 2 with Taylor, saying that Taylor is his final 2, but now he's putting Taylor up on the block the very next day. These are the kind of end games I think are very, very sloppy. These are the kind of end games this is the kind of end game that could cost Monty the game if Taylor was more petty than she actually is. Because if I was in Taylor's shoes and Monty just went out of his way to make a final 2 with me and then changes his mind the very next day, yeah, I would not be voting for Monty to win this game. That's just stupid lying, in my opinion. There was also a point, though, that it's not 100% Monty's fault here. Today, during a conversation with Taylor, he did mostly put it out there that if Taylor can guarantee him that if it was Alyssa and Turner on the block, that she would vote out Alyssa. But Taylor's been pushing for Turner to go. And, you know, this is a part of Taylor's game that just isn't savage enough for me. because Taylor can tell Monty, yeah, go ahead, put up Turner instead of me, and I will keep Turner over Alyssa, and then she could vote out Turner anyway. Would that be savage against Monty? Yes, but it would be her playing the game a little harder. But to Taylor's credit, it hasn't been her game this season, and her game has been, yes, she's too nice, and yes, that could get on my nerves, but that is what has been working for her social game, is her being so nice and honest is why if she makes the end, she actually has a very significant chance of winning with this jury. So Taylor is doing what's best for her game here. I do think one annoying thing about Monty that is annoying me too is that he's being so concerned about Taylor talking to Brittany so much today, but like, does he not realize that Taylor's going to need Brittany's vote if he's going to put Taylor on the block? So Monty being upset about that, I think, is dumb too. There's also the possibility, the outside the box idea, if this was a more strategic game this season, has been a lack of strategy, that Monty, who just used the veto on Alyssa at the double, if Monty were to go to Alyssa and tell Alyssa that he is going to put Turner on the block and the girls are going to vote out Turner and he's going to do this for Alyssa, I do think Monty could realistically make a deal with Alyssa. Alyssa doesn't have any real ties in this game to anyone other than Turner, but if Turner is going to be the one to go this week, that would be the only way he can get rid of Turner this week and still have a benefit in this game, is to have Alyssa in his pocket, Alyssa who's easy to beat in comps, rather than keeping Turner who's harder to beat in comps. But that would mean Monty would have to take a risk here and go forward with himself as a big target without a semi-shield like Turner. That would be one outside the box idea, but I don't see Monty going for that. I don't see him having that sort of outside the box idea. Monty plays it safe, and this season just has low level of gameplay, so you can't expect these kind of things to be made. Anyway, that's all for now. Monty's HOH, I think, has been mostly good for him. Taylor could be in trouble this week on the block because of Brittany's sporadic, awful gameplay.